Going down, everybody? It's your boy, that guy Mile High, tuning back in for another reaction. And this time we got scary islands that no one wants to buy. I can only imagine what that would be like to even be in a position to buy. Or I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a position to even buy an island, let alone to be picky about which island I buy. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. So let's go ahead and just jump into this and see, you know, what craziness on these islands and why people are so scared of them. So yeah, let's go. Record screen. Hit that full screen. And let's jump into this. Let go. Strap your boots on too. It's about to be
also known as the island
or like a 30-minute reaction.
This island is just south of Mexico City and has quite the story. Don Julian Santana Barrera was the caretaker of this island, and one day he found a little girl drowned by the water. He had no idea how she had died, and he was unable to save her.
Well, that one's haunted. We know why that one's messed up.
Floating near the canal, which he assumed was most likely that girl's. Out of respect for the girl, he took the doll and hung it on one of the trees on the island, and that's how it all began. After that point, it's said that Julian started getting haunted by this girl, and in an attempt to appease his spirit, he started hanging more dolls all around the island. Those close to Julian said he changed after that period. It's like an unseen force started driving him to make these dolls his life. After 50 years of collecting dolls and hanging them, Julian was...
That sounds crazy. Like, just leave the island, bruh. Just leave. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I guess you're having a hard time selling this mug. Anyways, let's continue.
Drowned in the exact same place he had found that girl's body. Many believe Julian made up the story in his solitude, but I feel like 50 years of sticking to a fake story is a bit much. And despite thousands of people living on the island, currently most of them believe the spirit of the girl, Julian, and
unless he had like some mental health issues, you know.
Island. Many have seen girls move and have heard whispers coming from them. So I mean, I've given you the information. The rest is up to you whether you want to move there or not. I've done my bit. Coming in at number 9 is Star Island, located
in at your own will.
Star Island is actually a man-made island that was completed in 1922. You can access the island quite easily by land or by barrier islands, and it's had a lot of famous residents over the years like Shaq, Emilio and Gloria Estefan, P. Diddy, etc. But despite the celeb appeal, it's actually been the site of a lot of horror. The Oceanic Hotel was built on the island in 1873, but burned down 2 years later. When the owners rebuilt it, there were many reports of the 4th floor of the new hotel being haunted, with guests saying they could hear furniture being dragged around in empty rooms and doors opening and closing when no one was there. They would also
I mean, you got a lot of torture. Sure, people probably died in that fire.
People speculated it was the guests that had died in the previous hotel that were haunting the new one.
Hell yeah. That's like these crazy people who want to like dig up, you know, cemeteries and ancient burials and shit so they could put condos and houses and apartment buildings and shit. And then think that you ain't go, you know, you didn't piss off some spirits in the process. Like, let's be real, bro.
His prior Reverend George Beebe moved there to preach on the island. The fresh sea air also made it a very popular area for tuberculosis patients to come visit, and the Reverend held a lot of sermons for them, not knowing 5 years later all 3 of his daughters would get the illness and die. The girls were buried in the cemetery he made, and he left the island soon after that, and I really can't blame the man. But many tourists have seen the girls running in the cemetery and heard them giggling as they've been close to their graves. Others have even heard the whispering of small children reciting Bible verses.
Yeah,
They really are holier than thou. Last but not least, if ghosts were bad enough, people believe that vampires also inhabit the island. Since it used to be a TB camp way back when, historically New England vampires were born after dying from TB, so there's that link there as well. Could this be the new set of Twilight? I don't really know. At number
commercial.
8, we have HART Island, also known as the Island of the Dead. Off to a great start here, clearly.
The Island of the Dead. Well, that one's got a bad name. That's why that one ain't gonna sell.
It used to be the location of a psychiatric institution.
And it's that. There's another big ass reason why it ain't gonna sell.
School, a tuberculosis sanatorium, a rehab center, a jail, and a potter's field. Was there
all sorts of
on that list? I
businesses that you wouldn't want to associate yourself with.
Buried on the island, many of which weren't claimed by their families or were homeless. At access to the island is restricted unless you're a family member of someone buried there, and even then you need to request access beforehand. From the name, you can probably guess that many people believe the island is haunted, and with that many people buried there, it'd be impossible if it wasn't. No one has the option to live there, but I don't think anyone would, even if they did.
I wouldn't want to live there. I wouldn't want to own it.
Island, and Lord knows
I got a terrible
this one has
past.
to be on the list.
Just
one
put it
island
under the ocean.
notoriously bad reputation that everyone knows. It's Alcatraz. Located in San Francisco,
you can buy
the
Alcatraz?
island is home to the oldest operating lighthouse on the West Coast and a very well-known abandoned prison. Now, before the prison, the island was inhabited by Native Americans for thousands of years, and even they kept tribal members there who broke the rules. By 1934, it was turned into a maximum security prison, and during the 29 years the prison was in use, the penitentiary claimed no prisoner ever escaped successfully. 36 tried, 23 were caught, 2 drowned, 6 were shot while trying to escape, and 5 were never found and presumed dead. Al Capone was in there, George Machine Gun Kelly, Alvin Creepy Carpus. So many notorious criminals were held in Alcatraz. The island is oozing history. The guards were very well.
That would be the only reason to buy that, but you'd have to be a kind of a creepy person, I feel like, or like really into like prison history to want to buy that. Like that would have to be like your thing.
Rooms and cells where a variety of ghostly sightings and activities have been reported by visitors, rangers, and even prisoners. Whispering has been heard in the cells. You can see phantom figures looming in the corridors, cell doors locking and unlocking, cold spots in random parts of the prison, and even the sound of musical instruments being played. Apparently, every single guard and official who served there experienced something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, there was hella just death and tragedy there. Again,
located in Vancouver, Deadman's Island was a site of a lot of
ghosts are real, but I don't want to have no problems with them because I got 99 problems and the ghosts ain't one. You feel me?
As you guys got from the title, it had been a native tree burial cemetery in the past, and when the first white settlers went there, they found hundreds of red cedar boxes attached to trees, and after one fell and opened, they found a bunch of bones and a tassel of black hair, which were the remains of the Squamish people. When the settlers tried to acquire the island, they were warned by Chief Capilano of the fact the island is dead ground. A battle had taken place between 2 tribes, the North and South Nations, over claims to the island. During the battle, 200 kids, women, and elders were captured by the South and held captive. In exchange for them, 200 northern warriors traded themselves in and were all killed on the spot. And if that's not enough death, in the late 1800s, the island was transformed into a quarantine site for victims of smallpox, and those who didn't survive are still buried there. The island was then the location.
I wouldn't want to buy that either.
Ludgate wanted to make it a lumber mill, and as soon as he tried to cut down a tree, he was arrested, but it was said they could hear shrieking and rattling bones when they tried to. Hence, no one has tried to cut down any trees since. Recent residents say they've heard footsteps in their house when no one else was on the island, and that they can see a glow coming from the trees that sometimes sharpens into a person.
That's crazy. Hold up 1 second. I got a text back, Renee. Hold up 1 second. All right, let's go.
Oshima Island. 3 kilometers away from the coast of Japan, you can get to
Oshima
Island by ferry. And it's a nice island, honestly. There are walking trails for tourists, campsites, historical sites. It's not just an overgrown jungle.
That's like the only one that looks decent so far.
For many reasons. For one, the island was used during the Russo-Japanese War, where it was chosen to start developing chemical weapons. Construction, development, and storage were all kept a secret, and residents and workers weren't even told what the plant was making, despite many of them suffering from toxic exposure-related sicknesses. The place used to produce over 6 kilotons of tear gas and mustard gas. The island was far enough from Tokyo that it didn't really pose a threat to it, but after the war was over, everything was burned or destroyed, and everyone was told to basically not say anything about it. But even now, nobody lives on the island, well, unless you count the fact that it's overrun with rabbits who aren't even native to that part of the world. Rabbit Island, as some call it, has so many rabbits because they all descended from the
because they breed like rabbits.
Turn it into a park after the war. They also used the rabbits to test the chemical weapons on, but the ones on the island now are not related to the mutated ones.
That started off so nice and lovely, and oh yeah, you know, it's become like a little bunny sanctuary, and then it's like gets real yeah, but they be testing, you know, weapons and things on these bunnies and shit, and mutating these motherfuckers. Like, what the? Come on, Chernobyl ass fucking island and shit. Get out of here. Nobody want that shit.
don't know if they can even prove that, but sure. At number 4 is Ellis Island. Located in New York Harbor, the island used to be America's busiest immigrant inspection station for 60 years. 12 million immigrants passed through the island in that time, and 240,000 of them were rejected for health reasons. 3,000 of those either died in the hospital there or committed suicide. So the structures on the island are as follows. There's a massive main building that has a kitchen, storage space, dorms, a bakery, etc.
A bakery?
Building, and finally the main hospital building. Families were separated when kids would be accepted, but their sick parents would not, so the building has a very teary past. Over the years, nurses and technicians admitted they'd hear voices and smell burning candles coming from the Great Hall despite it being empty. The whispers of crying children can also be heard all over the building, even long after there were no kids there. I don't know why this whole separating kids and parents thing is reminding me a whole lot of what's going on in America right now, but that's none of my business.
Right.
Filling our number 3 slot is Corregidor Island. Now this island is located near the entrance of Manila Bay in the Philippines, and because of its location, the island has always had coastal artillery on it to defend Manila from enemy warships. During World War II, the island played a major role in freeing the Philippines from Japanese forces. In 1942, Japanese
you could
forces
kind of
took over
like,
the island where
my bad to pause, but like, you could tell why a lot of these like places, nobody wants them. Like, let's be real. A lot of these places, you don't want them because, or you wouldn't want it because they're terrible. They got terrible histories, a whole lot of death and destruction and mutated bunnies and shit. Like, nobody wants that shit. Come on, man.
Starved and tortured over 3,000.
I think the Alcatraz one is the only one so far that like I could see someone buying it, but it'd be like a really specific person.
The Americans wanted to recapture the island, which resulted in nearly 7,000 Japanese soldiers dying and 1,000 deaths on the American-Filipino side. I honestly feel like a history teacher. Do you guys agree? When this happened, it
I've
said
learned
that
a lot so far.
3,000 Japanese
Thanks.
soldiers chose suicide over being captured, so they sealed themselves in tunnels and caves and died in there. It was one of the biggest mass suicides that had ever taken place. And people say there's more blood that's flown on this island than water, and that's saying something. If that doesn't deter you from wanting to live here, honestly, nothing will. And now number 2 is Norfolk Island.
Like I said, nobody wanted all these blood-ridden
The island was first home to East Polynesians,
places,
but they were
bro.
long gone when the British got to it in 1788. After that point,
Take
the
my
island
chances
was a
with an
convict
untouched
penal
island.
settlement.
Find
Since
some
it
new
was so
shit.
remote, the British used it to house their most violent criminals, and many used to describe it as hell on earth. Why? Because since the early 1800s, the amount of rape, torture, and murder that's taken place on the island is endless because of the thousands and thousands of criminals that lived there. Forget the criminals, even the guards were vicious. The island is actually the 4th most haunted island in the world, and with everything that's happened there, are any of you really surprised?
No.
So if you want to move,
Got a lot of pissed off spirits on that place.
my guess, but I will not be joining you there. And finally, at number
Good.
1 is POVEGLIA Island, located between Venice
These
and
are-
Lido.
these are
The
all
island's
terrible
first
places.
record of existence
Terrible.
was actually in 421 and was populated till 1379. By 1776, the island was used as a quarantine area for people suffering from the plague and other diseases, and this lasted more than a century. The area was then transformed into a mental hospital in 1922, where a doctor used
More
to experiment on his
death and
patients
destruction.
with crude lobotomies. And if you've ever seen a lobotomy in a video or a movie, you know how screwed up they are. It's like the person just becomes a shell afterwards. Either way, after experimenting on his patients for years, he committed suicide by jumping from the hospital tower. Apparently, he'd gone mad from being haunted by so many ghosts, and I can
but all the
definitely see
patients
why a
you
bunch of
fucking-
patients would be angry with him after death
Right.
and haunt him. The reasons are there. And I hate the thought of all derelict mental hospitals on a good day, but today particularly, I'm scared. The island is completely off limits to visitors and tourists, and I imagine the ghosts of all those dead people are very much still around. Starting us off at number
That's
10 is
terrible.
Gaiola Island.
All right, we got- this is one of those ones with a few lists.
Gaiola is actually super close to Italy's coast, to the point you can actually swim there in a few strokes. Here's just some fun crawl. How convenient. Anyway, by the turn of the 20th century, the island was considered
That would almost
for
low-key,
good reason.
that one's kind of like cool. Granted, it doesn't look like it's got too much protections if you got any sort of like big waves coming your way. You know, it don't look like it going, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, a little sketch, but that would be kind of cool to like, You know what I'm saying? You could just take a couple little, you know what I'm saying? You could damn near walk, you can just walk back to the mainland and shit, but you can have your little off limits like in the water. That's kind of low key dope. I ain't gonna lie.
Let's rewind.
That was cool.
In the 1920s, the island belonged to Hans Braun, who was mysteriously found dead wrapped in a rug. No idea how he died.
Never mind. The mermaids got him. The mermaids got his nigga.
Ended up drowning at sea. So far the score is Island 2, Human 0. Then we move on to the next owner, Otto Grunbach, who ended up
this
having
island
a heart
just
attack while
killing
staying
people.
in the villa on the island. The next owner, Maurice Yves Santos, later committed suicide in a mental institute. What are we at now? 4-0. After her then came Carl Paul Langheim, who went bankrupt soon after the purchase. The next owner suffered many deaths in his family after he bought the island, and the next owner got it the worst. J. Paul Getty's youngest son died, his oldest son then committed suicide, and his grandson got kidnapped. Like,
golly, this island is taking people's everybody gonna get it. God damn.
I fully believe this island is cursed. It seems pretty damn evident. I don't need to buy that with the money I don't have.
Right, that island was rated E for everybody. Damn. It was, nobody was off limits. Everybody gonna get that shit.
The fanciest island out there, but if you want a little getaway, this place will do. Except there's just one teensy little flaw to it. It's haunted. So the island was actually named after Charles Getter, a man who was hung on the island after murdering his wife.
What?
But the hanging didn't quite go as planned. On the first attempt, the rope snapped and Getter fell to the floor. He was then waiting around for 20 minutes until they got a new rope. He died the next time around. Now it's said that his ghost haunts the island and is blamed
Could
for
you
any
imagine that
tragedies.
shit? Like, all right, let's do this shit. Damn. All right, cool. Like, y'all lost. Like, I win, right? I get to go home now? Like, no? You're gonna get another rope? All right. How long is this shit gonna take? 20 goddamn minutes? You gonna make me wait 20 more goddamn minutes for you to do the same? God damn it. All right. Well, can I get a smoke, man? Can I get a drink? Can I get something to eat real quick? You know what I'm saying? It's like, can I get some last minute puss? Like, come on, bro. What's going down? Like, let me let this 20 minutes be worth it. Shit. If I got to do this shit over again, I got to do the whole waiting process and anticipation process again. Like, let me get a little something. You know what I mean? Let me get a little something.
Occurs on or near the island. In fact, 30 years later, a steamboat's boiler malfunctioned near the island's banks. It exploded and killed the 12 passengers on board. But if you can get past the island's haunted past, then feel free to scoop this place up.
Commercial. And we back.
At number 8, we have Corregidor
Ew,
Island.
what is
This
that?
island is located near the entrance of Manila Bay in the Philippines. And I know
Little
you're
creepy
thinking,
little
who
thing.
wouldn't want to live on an island in the tropical east? Me. Well, due to its location, the island had always had coastal artillery on it to defend Manila from enemy warships. During World War II, the island played a huge role in freeing the Philippines from Japanese forces. In 1942, Japanese forces took over the island, where they starved and tortured over 3,000 Filipinos and Americans. The island was ambushed again at the end of the war, and by 1945, the Americans wanted to recapture the island. They were like, oh, hell no. That recapture resulted in nearly 7,000 Japanese soldiers dying and 1,000 deaths on the American-Filipino side. When this happened, it said that 3,000
another one of them
Japanese soldiers
blood-shedded
chose suicide
places
over
that
being
nobody
captured by the
wanted.
enemy, so they sealed themselves in tunnels and caves and waited to just die in there. It was one of the biggest mass suicides that had ever taken place.
Oh, this was on
And just
that
imagine
first
there's been more
list.
blood flowing through the gutters of this island than water. That has to lower the market price of the island, surely. You know what I mean? Nope. No buying this.
Making our way
No.
down the list at number 7, we have the Island of Dolls, aka the island.
All right, this one, we did this one too. Let's see.
And if you are creeped out by dolls,
All right, what's the next
So
one?
remote, the
Oh,
British
we
used
saw
to
that
house
one
them
too.
waters and a gondola
They're
ride
going
away
through.
from
What's
Venice,
we need the next part.
island in search of bananas.
but with the threat to those citizens, but that doesn't mean people didn't get hurt.
Oh,
Now,
there's the
post-war,
mutated
everything
bunnies.
was burned or
Hold
destroyed,
up.
and
All right,
everyone
here's
was told
part
to
2 right up here.
Starting off this countdown,
Here we
have
go. This is
McGibbon
part 2. I'm
Island.
pretty sure this
McGibbon
is
Island is a
different
beautiful
islands.
island located in New Brunswick, Canada. Shout out to Canada. Didn't know we
I don't know why
had
they doubled
enough to
up
have
some of those
creepy
islands.
Now, this is the perfect island if you love being outdoors. You can kayak and fish in its clear waters, and you can hike its tree-covered hills. And it only costs $30,000. I mean, that's a steal for your own private island.
Yeah, $30,000. Tell me more. Why is it only $30,000, my dear? Let's continue.
You got one big issue. Every spring, the entire island floods. So for a couple of months, the entire island
so you
gets
lose
engulfed in water, and you can't really visit it. Meaning
all
you
of your
can't
island.
really build anything on this island unless you don't mind it being destroyed by water. So maybe
just build some shit on stilts. Build a stilt house.
You certainly couldn't live on it, that's for sure, unless you want to drown alongside the island.
Or just have a boathouse.
No, I ain't trying to drown. Now, coming in at number 9 are the Pitcairn Islands. Now, this group of volcanic islands is the least populated jurisdiction in the world.
All right, well, it's volcanic.
With the mutineers of the HMS Bounty, but now
granted, we like to build shit on volcanoes, but I'm just saying.
It's gotten so bad that the government is actually begging people to live there. They're willing to give settlers a free plot of land to build on, but even with that insane offer, no one's up for it. And I feel like that may be due to the sexual case of 2004, where a third of the male population on the island were convicted of pedophilia and sexual.
God damn!
I would live on an island where such a large part of the population are just people that could hurt me. Now, there are also no jobs on the island. There's like one general store you have to order your food supply 3 months in advance, so that's not really that appealing, is it? But at least it has electricity and internet. Oh, who am I kidding? No one's gonna buy it anyways.
Making our way.
Right, nobody wants that shit. You keep that shit.
This island, located in St. John, New Brunswick, has a very sinister history. And apparently, New Brunswick has a lot of scary islands. Legend has it that between 1785 to 1850, thousands of residents died there from typhus and cholera. There were so many dead bodies that the soil had a hard time disintegrating them all. Some believe that if you go to this island, chances are you will stumble across someone's remains. But not only that,
you keep it.
Is said to be haunted by tons of different ghosts.
I got 99 problems and a ghost ain't one. You feel me?
Who got trapped and
hit
died
me.
in one of the tunnels there.
Yeah, you keep
Not
that
only
shit.
That, it's said to never go to the island after dark. And if you're on the island when night falls, well, you're
I was gonna say, what are you doing when you're...
It is extremely dangerous at nighttime. Tons of people have broken bones trying to make their way across it at night. Others have drowned or fallen to their death. Also, at night, people have heard screams and cries for help coming from the island. But when the Coast Guards investigate, they find no one. So they believe that these are the sounds of the ghosts that haunt the island.
Filling at number 7 slot is the Isle of Wight. This is
There
the
you
biggest
keep
and
all
second
that
most
shit,
populous
sir.
island in England.
All
It's
that
also
shit,
known
sir.
as Britain's most haunted island. Already going to do very well in the property market. I can just see it now. Not. Now, it used to house a lot of fortification back in the war days, and it was a bit of a holiday retreat for Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. The Stone Age community loved an ancient tomb near Freshwater Bay on the island, which means there are hella spirits there.
Hella spirits. You hear that? She said hella spirits.
Dead, and the ghosts of all these people have been known to haunt the island, groaning and floating through the town. Places like
good, bro.
Gorgeous Manor and God's Providence House are known to be supernatural hotspots. The manor has a really dark history with it as well, with a serial killer resident living there like Hugh de Morville and his 3 accomplices. Later on in the 1800s, the owner of the manor, George Maurice, burned it down just to spite his daughter. Pretty much. The criminals have been seen
Petty
on
ass
horses on the
motherfucker.
anniversary of their
Oh, yeah,
deaths.
petty.
The manor seems to house animal-like apparitions that look like gargoyles but aren't. I don't want to find out what they do look like. No.
Coming in at number 6, we have
that's
Ramree
crazy, bro.
Island.
You keep all
Located
that.
in Myanmar, this island is considered one of the most dangerous islands in the world. So during World War II, this island was the site for many battles. In 1945, the British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off of the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem.
Okay.
Those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. In fact, this incident is featured in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most
So now I
number
got a
of
gator-infested,
crocodile attack, and it's the greatest disaster suffered by humans from an animal. Now it's said that the ghosts of those who died haunt the island. So
They got eaten up.
Ghosts and crocodiles,
Oh, like a
feel free to
buffet.
scoop up this island.
There was a
Now,
buffet.
number 5 is HART Island, also known as the island of the dead. So
how would you feel if you was the buffet? You know what I'm saying? You was on the menu.
Through it. It used to be the location of psychiatric institution, a prison war camp, a boys reformatory school.
What is with people building weird shit on islands, man?
A rehab center, a jail, and a potter's field. Was there anything happy or even remotely positive on that
No.
list? I don't think so.
Not at all.
1 million people are buried on the island, many of whom weren't claimed by their families or were just homeless. Access to the island
Terrible.
is restricted unless you're a family member of someone who's buried there, and even then you have to request access before actually going. From the name, you can probably guess that many people believe the island is haunted, and with that many people buried there, it'd be almost impossible if it wasn't. No one has the option to live there, but I don't think anyone would, even if they did, let alone buy it. Too many dead people. It's just creepy.
In our fourth spot,
terrible.
we have Tillamook Island, otherwise known as the Terrible Tilly. This is the smallest island on this list. It's less than an acre in size. All that they have room for on this island is a single lighthouse. Now, there's a reason why they call the island Terrible Tilly. The island is often terrorized by waves that could wipe you out in an instant. This made the construction of the lighthouse very hard. In fact, it took 500 days to complete. Then in 1881, a ship crashed on shore, killing all the members on board, except for the crew's dog. Thank gosh the puppy was safe. That's all I care about.
Except for the dog.
Furthermore, the
that's
island
crazy.
is notorious for being cursed or haunted by evil spirits. 4 men
I mean, it
and
just
one
looks
woman
real
on the
remote and
island,
just
but living in
scary. Like, I
isolation
wouldn't want to
without
live on
their
that.
family
That ain't even an
is
island. That's a rock.
insane. On one
That ain't even an island, bro. That's a rock. That's just a rock in the middle of the ocean, just a rock. Like, you know, like, where's the rest of the island at, bro? There ain't enough there to be just that. That's a rock. You found you a nice rock that you was able to build some shit on, and then it just started taking people's lives because they don't look like there's no safe way to get on this rock or off this rock. So it's like, if you do manage to get on the rock, you better keep your ass on that shit. And if you do manage to get off of it, you better not try to get your ass back on. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about that one. Come on.
saw a ghost ship approach the island. Other lightkeepers have been attacked by ghosts and have heard sounds of creepy moaning. In fact, one lighthouse keeper had to be taken away in a straitjacket after being driven mad by the ghosts.
And number 3 is
Alright.
Hashima Island. Located in Nagasaki, Hashima was once one of the most populated parts of Japan, but now lies completely deserted. The island was known for housing many undersea coal mines where conscripted Koreans and Chinese prisoners were forced to work in horrible conditions. Now, the
Damn.
temperature down the mines would be 30 degrees Celsius every day, which actually really isn't that bad, but the humidity was at 95%, which is deathly. Around
That's
1,300
terrible.
workers died due to malnutrition,
Be all
exhaustion,
sticky and
other
shit all the time.
miscellaneous accidents, or whatever shady things that means. Other sources say the death toll was actually above 2,000, but we won't know for sure. What's even more eerily
That was like a
creepy
little
about the
man-made
is that the
island,
building
too.
ruins are all untouched. Everything's undisturbed by nature. And I feel like when places are abandoned like that, the creepiest people
Yeah,
are always just
that's that
lurking in the
creepy
shadows
shit.
who were sort of just forgotten there or just chose to stay.
In our second spot, we have Palmyra Atoll Island. Palmyra Atoll Island is a beautiful island with white beaches and bright blue waters located
It's all
near the
beautiful,
Hawaiian
but what
Islands.
happened on it?
But
What
it's
happened?
a place that no one ever wants to visit. Why? Well, it's said to have a very dark history of countless murders. So back in 1870,
okay.
a crew aboard a ship called the Angel were shipwrecked near the island. The survivors who made it to shore were later found brutally murdered. Their bodies were found scattered throughout the island. No one knows what on earth happened to them. But that's not the only strange thing that happened there. A plane was flying above the island when all of a sudden it just dropped out of the sky. Rescue teams were never able to find the plane. Then this happened again with a different plane that was flying over the island. All of a sudden, it just disappeared off the radar and vanished.
So like
without
some
a
old
trace.
like
You thought I
Bermuda
was
Triangle type ass shit.
There's more. In 1974, Eleanor Graham and her husband Malcolm Graham decided to go visit the island.
What?
Once they made it there,
Why?
they were never heard from again. That was until
Yeah.
several years later when Eleanor's skeletal remains were found in a large container wrapped in barbed wire. She had been beaten to death, her body was burned and dismembered. Malcolm's body was never found, and no one knows what happened to them. Something
There's some
or
weird
someone on this island
indigenous
is
people on
responsible for
this
these murders.
island
We
that
just
don't want no
don't know
visitors.
what it is.
They don't want no problems
pretty
unless
scary.
you
I don't think it's an
touch
animal, 'cause
down
how
on
an
shore
animal,
or
like,
fly over that shit. You know what I'm saying? Keep your ass away.
Number 1 is Dead Man's Island, located in Vancouver.
Oh, Dead Man's Island. That
History
sounds
of a
terrible.
lot of
Nobody
death,
wants
as
that
you
shit
guys
either.
probably guessed from the name. Prior to white settlers coming, the island had been a native tree burial cemetery, and when the settlers got there, they found hundreds of red cedar boxes attached to the trees.
Oh
The
yeah,
one
we
fell
saw this
down,
one
and
in
inside
that
they
first
found a
list.
bunch of bones and a
Yeah, all the
tassel.
bones and shit and all the bullshit. Yeah, man. Oh, these are terrible islands. They're all terrible. You wouldn't want to buy any of them. The only one still that I'll stand on that I said I could see someone buying because they're weird and have some weird niche and you know, infatuation with like prisons and prison history and all that nonsense is the Alcatraz one. But outside of that, nobody wants any of them goddamn islands. They had terrible names. They had terrible histories. They had just terrible everything, bro. It was terrible. All right? Yeah. If I had the money to buy a goddamn island, I'm definitely not buying any of them goddamn islands. Okay? Simple as that. Because I got 99 problems and I don't need a ghost. Yeah, I got 99 problems and a ghost ain't one. And that's just what it is. Okay? All right? You know what I'm saying? I got 99 problems and a ghost ain't one. I'm going to say that shit again. And that's just what it is. All right? I'm going to see y'all later in the next one. All right? Catch y'all in the next one. Peace.